Apple got burned. After moving production from China to India, 1 in every 4 iPhones globally is now made in India, yet Apple is considering leaving. Does that sound counterintuitive? To establish roots in India, Tim Cook invested $5 billion to build 5 factories, pushing production capacity to 25% of global output. Just as Apple was about to bite into this juicy opportunity, why the sudden urge to turn and run? The reason is simple. Imagine renting a storefront to open a restaurant, where you pay for and install all the kitchen equipment. Suddenly, the landlord jumps up and says, "That equipment is for the shop, so it counts as an associated transaction. I need a cut of the restaurant's profits from now on." India is that landlord, pulling out a 1961 version of the rental agreement and insisting on settling a 60-year-old account with Apple. What is even more shocking is that while Apple is being choked by tax laws, its contract manufacturer Foxconn just invested another $1.5 billion in India for expansion, and the Tata Group spent a hefty sum to acquire Wistron's Indian factory. The total area of Apple's factory zones in India now exceeds that of the Longhua factory in Shenzhen. On one side, there is genuine capital investment. On the other, there is harvesting, using outdated laws. This move has completely baffled the global supply chain community. Next, let's dissect. How does India dare to be so tough? How did China retain Apple with its sincerity back then? What are the key secrets to attracting investment used by developed regions in Europe and the US? After reading this, you will understand that Apple's stay or departure is no longer about money. The last straw, a tax law older than Tim Cook. No one expected that the last straw that broke Apple's Indian ambition was a tax law older than Tim Cook himself. A vintage clause in India's Income Tax Act of 1961 states, if a company provides equipment to a partner, it constitutes an associated transaction, and regardless of where the product is sold, the profit must be taxed in India. This means that the production lines Apple provided to Foxconn and Tata have, ironically, become evidence for India to levy taxes. Even if all phones are supplied to the US market, the taxes must remain in India. What's more ironic is that India previously used the PLI, production-linked incentive, scheme as bait, promising Apple a production subsidy of up to 6%. Now they are using an old law for a post-settlement reckoning. This contradictory behavior is a world away from Ireland's approach. In the 1990s, to attract tech companies, Ireland directly cut the corporate tax rate to 12.5% and explicitly stipulated that equipment placement by multinational corporations does not count as an associated transaction. Companies like Google and Microsoft flocked there to build factories. Google alone created 12,000 jobs in Ireland, and the tech industry now contributes 15% to Ireland's GDP. India aims to replicate Ireland's investment attraction model, but only copied the superficial, giving subsidies, missing the core element of upholding the rules. Policy instability will only deter foreign investment. After all, no one wants to invest money into a regulatory black hole, where today's subsidy could be tomorrow's tax bill. Apple has given India opportunities. From 2019 to 2025, its supply chain partners invested over $7 billion in India, raising iPhone production there from nearly 0 to 25%. Last year, the value of iPhones assembled in India soared to $22 billion, a year-on-year increase of nearly 60%. However, India's sincerity is only reflected in the production figures, not in stable regulations. In contrast, China's actions when introducing Apple back then demonstrated true empathy. In 2007, when Apple planned to build a factory in Zhengzhou and raised the issue of equipment ownership in the contract manufacturing model, China immediately clarified that equipment owned by Apple but used by the contract manufacturer will not be classified as an associated transaction. China also provided supporting logistics bonded areas, employee dormitories, and even coordinated power supply. This flexibility is what led Apple to base 80% of its capacity in China. At its peak, Foxconn in Zhengzhou handled 80% of the iPhone 14 production, with 85% of the Pro series coming from there. China's logic was simple. Retaining Apple was not just for the tax revenue but to leverage its production lines to gain expertise. Many of the techniques used in Huawei's and Xiaomi's production lines today originate from the manufacturing experience Apple brought. Zhengzhou was transformed from an ordinary city into the heart of the global mobile phone supply chain, with Foxconn alone driving 500,000 jobs. India has completely failed to grasp this wisdom of watering the fish to nurture the pond. It only focuses on Apple's short-term profits, but overlooks the long-term value of the supply chain. The localization rate of core components is only 35%, far below the 60% target for 2027. Camera modules and OLED panels are all imported. India should be focusing on fixing its weaknesses but is busy using old laws to gouge foreign companies. This short-sightedness will only block its own path to industrial upgrading. The B plan is underway. Apple's patience is gone. Apple's patience has long worn thin with India's meddling. Over the past 6 months, Tim Cook has been on a special forces-style tour of Southeast Asia. First, he promised increased investment in Vietnam. Apple's supply chain has spent $16 billion in Vietnam since 2019, creating over 200,000 jobs. Vietnam can now assemble iPads and headphones and produce semiconductor components. Next, he flew to Indonesia to meet the president, clearly expressing an interest in building factories there. Indonesia offered the incentive of priority component procurement, and both sides quickly reached an agreement. This is not just casual touring, it marks the formal activation of Apple's Plan B. The example of Tennessee in the US shows that the supply chain always votes with its feet. In the 1980s, when Japan's Toyota wanted to build a factory in the US, Tennessee did not engage in tax surprises. Instead, it helped build supporting highways, trained workers, and enacted legislation to ensure the regulatory stability for foreign enterprises. Today, Toyota's factory in Tennessee produces 1.2 million cars annually, driving 30,000 local jobs, and the state government collects an additional $1.2 billion in sales tax alone. In comparison, India is like an impatient landlord who raises the rent as soon as the tenant moves in, forgetting that there are many fully furnished vacant properties next door. Vietnam and Indonesia are those vacant properties. They may not match India's current production capacity, but they excel in clear rules and genuine sincerity. Apple's shift is only a matter of time. The logic of global supply chain relocation is no longer about who is cheapest, but who can solve problems. Back then, China solved Apple's problems of capacity, logistics, and regulation, becoming the main base. Now, Vietnam solves Apple's need for diversification, and Indonesia offers a huge population market, while India only delivered on production figures, but created the bigger problem of regulatory risk. Just as Nokia selected suppliers not based on the lowest quote but on those who could guarantee zero defects in components, the supply chain competition is always about reliability, not low price. India's lesson is a warning to all countries that want to rely on foreign investment for development. The sincerity of the policy is not in the amount of subsidies, but in the stability of the regulations. Ireland retained Google for 20 years with a fixed 12.5% corporate tax. Tennessee bound Toyota for 40 years with unchanging foreign investment policies. And China rooted Apple for 16 years with flexible and adaptable rules. These success stories point to one truth: companies do not want surprises, they want certainty. By using a 60-year-old law for a surprise attack, India appears to have gained short-term tax revenue but has lost its future industrial chain. Once Apple shifts capacity to Vietnam and Indonesia, even if India changes its tax laws, those companies won't come back. On Tim Cook's desk today, there are certainly 3 reports: India's tax dispute, Vietnam's investment plan, and Indonesia's factory invitation. If you were Cook, how would you choose? Would you bet on India changing its law, or would you turn to embrace the more reliable Southeast Asian nations?